Okay, so our next panel is with one of our special guests. He has graced the halls of the Hilton a number of years ago at an alternative convention, closely related to this one. And we're very, very pleased to have him back with us in the UK this year. So please, can we welcome to the stage David Sobolov.
British drink with me, I think. Let's see what I have.
I'm guessing
My friend Fiona is here. She brought me Costin Press rhubarb.
That's
British, right?
Yeah,
British. Love it.
Have you tried or heard of Iron Brew?
I've heard of it, I haven't tried it.
Okay. I mean, I have a Scottish boyfriend. I've not even tried it, but I can confirm. Any Scots in the crowd? Woo! Yeah. How much Iron Brew do you drink a day? Too much, you know, a couple of litres a day.
Is it alcoholic?
No, it's not even alcoholic.
Oh.
It's the only, am I right in thinking, it's the only country in the world where the most popular soft drink is not Coca-Cola. In Scotland, it's Iron Brew. That's the level of addiction. Anyway, sorry. Random start to the panel, but there we go.
It's a beverage panel. We're going to talk about drinks.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. So yeah, David, nice to have you here. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you come from, to anyone who's not aware?
Well, I'm David Sobolov. I was born in Canada many years ago. I started out as a French horn player.
Oh really?
And I started out also as an a cappella singer. And I got into voice acting because an agent saw me in a play, I did a lot of theater too, and said, come do villains.
Wow.
I hadn't even thought of doing voice acting as a career. That was 30 years ago almost.
What did you originally think you would do as a career?
Musician, I think. But I have a funny thing to say. French horn playing requires a very small tongue. My tongue is more suited to trombone playing or tuba playing. I had a nice tone, but I couldn't articulate well, so I never would have made it anyway.
Nice. So was that brass music you particularly did with French horn?
Yeah, I did a lot of ensembles, and then into the singing. I toured for a while with an a cappella quartet.
Nice. And you were you sort of more in the bass range by any chance?
Yeah.
No, not doing it.
Definitely.
Awesome, that's great. So what was the first time you fell into voice acting, and how did?
Well, when they came and found me and said, come do villains, and it wasn't even a villain. The first one I did was a robot.
Okay.
For a TV pilot.
It's a bit of a trend then.
But there was a show called Vortec, 1995, and he was the first villain, and Sue Blue directed that.
Really?
Yeah. And then Beast Wars next.
Nice.
Yeah.
So moving nicely onto Beast Wars, you're the first of a number of Transformers roles. At that point, had you ever heard of? Were you aware of Transformers?
No,
not at all. Nice. Yeah, but I think most of anyone that's been for quite a few years, a lot of I guess say that. We had Gary Chalk last year, and he was like, I had no idea what Optimus Prime was. I didn't know the significance. Just now there's big cult heroes. So
I wonder if anyone else got this. If you watch some episodes of Beast Wars, Gary couldn't say depth charge.
Yeah, I did.
Sometimes he would say depth charge.
When I sort of saw it written down, I was like, oh, it's depth. That makes sense.
But it always made me smile, you know.
It makes sense for obviously, his
No
old
offense to
friend.
him at all. He's a great actor.
Yeah, because I think I always heard it as depth charge, and now I understand why.
Say the word depth in the US accent. It takes a moment. Depth charge. You have to stop almost. Depth charge.
Yeah, that makes sense.
British people can articulate better than we can.
Oh, not everyone. I don't know. We've got. You've met David Wallace, right? I'm sorry, that was mean. He's not even here to be insulted.
Wasn't that script great last night?
It was?
We did a lot of work on that.
Yeah, you did.
That was tough.
You did.
We didn't rehearse it at all. We just came to us and we did it as best we could.
You did it really well. Have a round of applause. A really good script reading. If you were there last night, you would have heard we've not done a script reading at TF Nation for 5 years. We've had several other very, very good alternative evening arrangements. But I think that script reading is always a really big pull. So yeah, well, thank you very much for the number of voices you ended up doing one after another.
Yeah, it the first time I'd ever performed the loud screamy one, again for Bumblebee.
Yeah?
Yeah, since the film.
Cool.
I try to avoid it,
Oh.
because it's very loud, but I like doing it last night.
So,
Let's win.
yeah. Oh, let's win, or another look for like Starscream, doesn't he? But yeah. It's always the running joke. So, Beast Wars, how did you end up with that role?
Well, a typical thing, you audition and then there you are.
Yeah.
And lucky me, I got Sue Blue as the director.
Awesome.
She was fantastic. Well, you saw me on Friday.
Yeah.
Be quite emotional about it. She started me out, really. That first show ever was her directing, and then Beast Wars.
So she was already obviously quite familiar with you and your work. Would you think that played a part a little bit in...
I'm sure she was somewhat consulted, but she wasn't involved in the casting process that I was aware of. She may have been. But the audition for that was 40 minutes long, I think I mentioned on Friday. And we just kept building layers. And it was mostly about Clint Eastwood.
Nice.
Some people really haven't heard of anymore, I think, mostly.
I think quite a few people, maybe under the age of 20, 25, should have heard of them, I hope. So, can you tell us a little bit about your work on Beast Wars? What was the kind of the format for it? I know some shows of you do your lines completely independently, some you do in the room. What was Beast Wars like?
It was a packed room with a large cast with every single person there, shoulder to shoulder.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's awesome. And are there any particular anecdotes or funny moments that might have arisen out of that?
Ian here and Scott here. So hearing them perform, it's very different to see it live. Because you'll never get to see it live usually, so different experience. But there was just amazing performances all around me. And Cam, who did Protoform X, he was way over there. But we had a great connection. The last day, when my character died, I didn't know till that day when I walked in. They handed me the script. Here you go. Because it makes the performance better if you know you've lost your job, right?
Yeah, that's fair. And what do you think that kind of recording environment affects the performance or the overall show?
Yeah, you can work off each other and collaborate. It's changed in LA now, Los Angeles. Most of the stuff's done at home. And I miss it. You miss the camaraderie, you miss getting to know people. And even at the agency, my acting agency, there used to be a booth there where you would go and do the auditions, and now everyone upgraded their equipment during COVID, and everything's done at home now. So, you see people at the conventions, and you meet the actors that you work with at the conventions half the time. And I'll be nostalgic for that. I hope it comes back.
Yeah.
I'm trying to come up with my own TV series that I'm creating now and pitch it to networks in the fall. And I really would like them to have everyone in the same room if people are willing. There's still some hesitation sometimes because of COVID.
Yeah, wow, that's exciting. I didn't know that. Can you tell us anything else about that?
Not much, except it's called Captain Fingers.
Captain Fingers.
It's a comedy.
I was hoping it was a comedy, otherwise very, very misjudged, but yeah. That sounds, and can you tell us anything about it?
Not yet.
No, okay. But
Hopefully soon.
Have you written that then? Have you...
I co-wrote it and created it, worked with the designer to get all the characters designed, and it's been fun.
Awesome.
There's a lot of great talent in it, so we'll see. I just did a little animatic, they call it. It's like a presentation piece. So we'll see what happens.
Nice. And will you be lending your voice to that as well?
I'm playing Captain Fingers.
Oh. Nice. Awesome. Okay, so obviously before Beast Wars, you just said you hadn't really heard of Transformers. After being involved in Beast Wars, did you start to, show an interest? So you can't say no.
Oh, for sure. No, of course I did. And I didn't realize how popular it was. No idea. And then you start meeting the fandom. And I love finding out what people, I'm not saying, oh, you love me. I'm just saying, I like when I know what people enjoyed what I did. And finding out specifically what they liked. And some characters, it's funny, like even today they were talking about some characters in this game called Skylanders that I did. And things nobody's really spoke of in 5 or 6 years all of a sudden becomes retro or they re-release it or something, and then people really are interested in it again. But Transformers is just lives forever, really.
Yeah, no, it really does. Awesome. And then it was quite a few years then until your next Transformers role, which was of course Transformers Prime. Yeah, because Shockwave is, I mean, one of the coolest. Yeah, let's get a for Shockwave. And I mean, not wanting to insult other performances, but arguably, almost now the iconic Shockwave performance, I would say, is well, for me anyway, is Transformers Prime and how well he comes across as the cold, logical villain.
The menace and palpable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, playing that kind of a role is difficult because you can't have any emotion except with Starscream. He was in the room, I gave him some emotion.
Nice.
Because, how could he not? It wasn't even programmed into him to have emotion, but somehow it popped up with Starscream in the room.
He's just the complete opposite, isn't he, to logic and calm and reason.
I thought they'd spin it off and do a musical comedy series together.
With you and Steve, I'd like to see that, yeah. Amazing. So can you tell us anything about how you, I'm sure you auditioned, but how you came into that show that was...
I remember the audition was at home at midnight. It was just one long paragraph, and that was it. No callback or anything.
Huh?
Yeah, it was a fairly simple process, but I remember reading it and just I could click into it right away. It made sense to me as a part. Because playing the cold character is just basically saying, if the thing that I want's on the other side of you, I have no emotional response about what it takes to get there, I just kill you. And that makes him scarier.
Yeah.
Because nothing can stop him. It's like, frankly, it's very similar to the concept that if a terrorist is okay about dying in the bombing, then it's harder to stop them.
Yeah. Yes.
They won't hesitate, and that's where Shockwave was like.
Yeah. Awesome. And then, of course, Shockwave obviously was it season 3? I'm trying to remember. Is it season 3? Yeah. Okay.
A little bit 2, there was one
Little 2, okay.
and then mostly in 3.
Yeah. So you wouldn't have had any crossover with Sue then, unfortunately, in Transformers Prime, because I know she was voice director.
No, she wasn't direct.
Only involved in, obviously, season 1, and season 3, and then the ending of the Predacons Rising, just do my...
Yeah.
Well, there you go. I know my Prime.
Predacons Rising was the last, I believe, 3 episodes.
That was it, yeah. So
They
it's
combined
like
it, and they told us what they were going to do, but
Yeah.
still also,
Yeah.
we had recorded it as separate scripts.
okay, what for each?
Just because of the way the union structures things, they were episodes, but we knew it was going to be a movie.
Movie, yeah. And how did you like the ending of Prime with that triple episode then?
Oh yeah, I like the Shockwave didn't die.
Thanks for
It
a
always
change.
opens up the possibility. And even all these years, Depth Charge is the part that I can't really play anymore. Like last night, it sounded like his dad. And that's what it's been so many years now. But most of the other stuff I've done, I can still do.
Yeah. Well, I for one would love to see you back as Shockwave in anything in the future. I think, yeah. Agree with that?
Well,
Of course. And then coming on to the movies, I don't think there are many voice actors at all that have had the honour of working on so many different, the shows and
Well, the funny thing is that none of the projects that were forward, later on, knew or cared about the ones I'd done before.
Mm-hmm.
There was no communication, no looking at, he played this and this, so we need him for this. They were completely separate things.
Yeah, it's crazy. And it's a shame.
It's random, right place at the right time,
Yeah, and I think other franchises have, so like look at Batman and the Joker and someone that have been so consistent, typically, or relatively, in a lot of media forms and video games and so on. And I think it's a shame. Well, it's a shame in some ways, and I guess in others you get new voices, new talent involved.
It's a corporate culture thing. Warner Brothers does that. Hasbro Studios didn't so much. They decided to change their marketing strategy as well. It's about the toys at the end of the day. And at the end of Transformers Prime, they had written 5 more episodes.
Had they?
They were ready to go in season 4. And we had a big party at the end of season 3, and none of us knew we were getting canceled. And then when we were went away, just didn't ever come back, because they decided to shift their focus to young kids. So it's just the way it is. You know, we're just a guest in their homes. It's their house.
Yeah.
They can do with it what they want.
But we're the customers. We're always right. We wanted a season 4.
There were so many more stories we haven't explored.
Yeah.
Well, let's hope those scripts exist somewhere.
Well, I was just going to say, that sounds like a great future.
But it's amazing when stuff like that happens, that stuff is put away forever and then nobody ever sees it again.
Yeah.
Because it's owned by them, so it's up to them whether they want to bring it out.
That sounds like a... We've got Jim Sorensen. Do your magic. Someone tell Jim, go find the scripts.
I know who has them.
Oh, yeah, do you? Okay.
I can find it.
Well,
I can find it if they still exist.
We might talk afterwards. That's
Oh, you know what though? The people that wrote them wouldn't even have them anymore because they'd be taken from the company. Yeah.
Of course. But do you know roughly what direction they were meant to take?
I just knew Shockwave was in them.
Okay, and did you know that's fair. And did you know if he died?
Oh no, he didn't die. As far as I know.
Of course not, he was gets away. Awesome, nice.
It's like Rhinox didn't die, there's still hope, right? Hope that he'll say something someday. Well, you know, the movie process is fluid, much more than television. And it was a really long process of doing the post-production of the voices. I know I'm skipping ahead, but over a year and a half, the plot of the ending changed like twice, and there were a lot of things that were rewritten constantly. The movie had to be delivered on May 1st, and they were still having sessions on April 27th.
Really?
They were tinkering, you know, and then it just looked like it didn't make sense for Rhinox to talk anymore, apparently. I found out the Friday before the premiere, and it was too late to take my name off the credits. And that's okay. They asked me, and I said, it's fine. It's actually good for me, because it kind of establishes me as the character, and I didn't do the character. But I'm under a non-disclosure agreement, I can't discuss it at all. People have asked a lot of questions today, and I said, say sorry.
Oh no.
But you know, hopefully he'll come back in the sequels, and we'll see.
Yeah.
That's
I
my
hope
hope.
so.
Hope it will be back in the sequels, have him speaking in a sequel. That's my hope.
We'll see. They won't start with that for a while, because it's a post-production element in the other voices. Even Peter Cullen, they would write it, but they bring him in after they've shot principal photography, the on-camera parts. Those are hard to change, you gotta do reshoots. But with us, they'd call us in all the time, like I said, every couple of weeks. It was exaggerating a bit, but maybe every 3 or 4 weeks, at least once a month I'd be in there doing something. And it would often just be things that changed.
And is that like the actual lines would change?
Yeah. Sometimes the lines would change while I was there.
Wow, that's crazy.
They would have a laptop, so and they couldn't get to a printer fast enough because they wanted to keep going. So the writers were there, just, let's try this, let's try that. And one time I remember, there was so little time because the session only had, they have them all like scheduled, different actors maybe. So I had my phone, they had me take a picture of the script and put my phone clip to the stand, so I know what to say next.
Wow, that's crazy.
It was quite the process, doing this last film. And I was telling a story today that I don't think is a problem making public, but Stephen Cable Jr., the director, he was a big Transformers fan. I don't know if anyone knows that here, but yeah, he was, or he is. And there would be a scene that wasn't yet animated, and he would use his Transformers toys from home to create the scene for us. So we
Awesome.
So you would see this $150 million quality film, and then boom, there'd be a scene of just in this living room with the toys. So we knew what was happening.
Hey, use what you've got.
I loved it.
Great.
I would love it if they had those videos, if they ever showed. Wouldn't that have been great on the DVD extra?
Yeah. Extras behind the scenes, what really happened.
Next time I see him, I'll ask him about that.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I mean, I think you can, whether you liked the new movie or thought it was alright, you know, in terms of live action, I think we can all agree that you can tell how much more heart's behind it in terms of from the top level of actually being having Transformers fans involved in the creation. So yeah, that's great to know.
Well, I'd like to think I've become, I guess the word would be honorary Transformers fan, even though I'm involved in the production. I'm loving it more and more. I've done it for 30 years now, so how could I not love it?
Yeah.
You know? And I really felt when I was doing this movie, I was the only Beast Wars cast member that was in the movie, and I tried to honor that as much as I could.
That's great. That's great.
I was thinking of you guys when I did it.
Yeah.
I wanted the fans to be happy. And Steven cared too, so they were, as much as he could control things.
That's great. I mean, I think for a lot of fans, just having, Beast Wars is such a turning point for Transformers history, and it's such a big part of a lot of people's childhood and nostalgia. And they're a little bit obscure, I try to explain it to my friends who aren't into Transformers, and they're like, why do they turn into animals? And it's like, look, there's a whole thing. And I think having Beast Wars in the film, and then having an actual cast member from Beast Wars, even though obviously some of your lines unfortunately were cut out, it's still really, it's nice to have that link. So yeah, well, thank you on behalf of the community and the fandom that you could do that.
Whether or not I have control over it, I think what you think matters to me. I want people to feel that they got something that is respectful of the history of the series. I thought Peter's performance was great in the last movie. Very strong. I got to see him at the premiere. It's great to see him once in a while.
But as you mentioned, I'm assuming you didn't get to work with him or with any of the actors. You just recorded.
Well, in that movie, we were all by ourselves. Plus, it was just the tail end of the serious part of the pandemic. So we were still in masks, at the beginning. You couldn't really do the part when you're in a mask, and they'd leave, so you could do yourself.
Yeah, and that's very fair. And I think you hinted on this earlier in the weekend, but am I right in thinking that at one point you were doing lines for quite a few of the characters? Yeah, do you want to tell us about that?
Well, did anyone notice in the DVD extra that I had a credit that wasn't expected? No one saw that yet? There's a credit for Omicron with my name on it.
DVD's not out here yet. There's a streaming one, but on DVD.
Yeah,
You don't have it yet? I thought, okay, it's streaming then. It's just, do you have it in the UK?
I think so, no.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, you'll see that I played Omicron at one time.
Omicron? Wow. Are you allowed to tell us anything about what the...
No.
No.
But you can, if it isn't released here.
Yeah, that's very fair.
We'll get it soon enough. It's just a small little thing, but it was nice to have that they put a credit on there.
Huh?
I played Omicron for over a year. And then they brought in, I always knew there'd be a celebrity in the part, and they brought in who they brought in, and life went on. I had 3 parts, which ended up being 2, but it was 2.
Yeah.
How lucky I am to even have 1. How lucky I am to even crying again like Friday, that I get to keep doing this for 30 years.
That's awesome, that's awesome. Oh yeah, again, we appreciate it. I think...
I just feel so grateful.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I don't know what it is with we know what it is, why top, very publicly recognisable celebrities get chosen to do some of these roles.
Well, traditionally they can do the talk shows, and they can do the publicity, and I once sat with the booker for the Conan O'Brien show. Remember when he had a TV show? Did they show it over here? The late night one? And he said, you'd be a great guest, but I would never book you. Because nobody knows your face. But I just say my characters are famous. I don't need to be famous. Let them be famous.
It's true. But any outside of Transformers, obviously you've been in a plethora of video games and Guardians and so many other franchises. Do you have any other particular favourites of those?
When I'm asked that question, I always say I love all my children equally.
Very diplomatic.
But there's a lot of great stuff. Doing Grodd on the Flash was nice. I liked him because he was in a vocal range where most of it could just be whispered. And I talked to the engineer about I'm going to whisper it, just turn it way up. It'll work, and it did. It was great. League of Legends video game, Volibear was fun. That's been fun. Asmodan, that I did in Diablo. That's still going. That's fun too. I played RoboCop. Did you know that? Years ago.
Didn't know that, no. That's awesome.
But that show was funny. It was a comedic version of RoboCop. And in the US, they showed it before the children were home from school. So no one ever saw it. They had very few fans that saw it. I think they needed a write-off that year at MGM or something. You know, tax write-off. Because it was when no one would ever see it, so they couldn't make any money from it.
What a shame.
As far as I knew, maybe they did. They always find a way.
Yeah. And then I saw in your credits that you've also done some of your characters in other languages, is that right? Is it German you speak?
A little bit. I don't speak any other languages, but sometimes the characters have to. There was a Call of Duty, the very first one, and they said, "You got 4 pages in German on Monday, David, good luck." So I hired a coach, and I learned my German,
Awesome.
and they are very picky at Call of Duty, and they had someone from Activision at the time. Usually anyone's directing is behind glass. This guy was sitting right beside me, German speaker, to make sure that my German was absolutely accurate, but they forgot one thing, that I was a Canadian growing up in Canada, but when I moved to the States, all the directors there, of course, worked with me to make sure they couldn't hear the Canadian accent anymore. So I'm sounding mostly like an American, with a little bit of Canadian thrown in, and I was speaking German in an American accent. And no one thought to work on that with me. So when my coach saw it, he said he fell off his chair laughing, because anybody in Germany would know.
Yeah.
But it was still fun. And occasionally I have to do other languages, but I just hire a coach and they teach it to me phonetically. And, I did promos in Italy for Sky TV.
Really?
Il brivi di sky.
Nice.
They were trying to promote Halloween in Italy, which they don't really know, I don't think, so it didn't work. But it was fun. They flew me over to Italy. That was fun.
That's cool. Yeah. Well, there you go. That's like, I don't think I could record lines in languages.
Well, they wanted an American actor that was known for horror and known for villains to do those things. And they had their normal guy who did all the Italian promos, and I had to learn it by rote. And then they had to bring in the producer to sort of help me shape it so I knew what it meant.
Yeah.
So that
You can like emphasize the right bit.
Yes, I feel like that's random and fun.
Awesome, nice. I mean, you probably know the story about Arnie, and he was wanting to do the, because obviously he's from Austria originally, and he wanted to do the German dub for Terminator, and any German speakers will know the Austrian accent is like, kind of like a Dorset or a West Country. It's like a farmer's, like, hillbilly kind of accent in German, so they were like, no, the Terminator cannot have, imagine like a Cornish accent for a villain, right? That's the equivalent in German. I love that story. And he's like, no, but I'm to the German dub. And they're like, no, you sound scary when you speak in English, and you just sound laughable in your own native tongue. So stand down.
They ended up having to do it?
No, they had to get someone else who actually sounded scary in German, and he doesn't. He sounds a fun farmer.
Good for them for not trying to talk to him.
Yeah. So imagine telling Arnie at the height of his heyday, no, I'm not scary enough.
Release the Arnie German cut. Release the Arnie German cut.
Release the Arnie German cut. Yeah, we want Farmer Terminator. Make it happen.
Has anyone heard Shockwave in other languages? You guys?
There must be.
I would love to. I never listened. I should find that.
I've got season 1 of Prime in German very randomly, which is entertaining because everyone just sounds scared.
There is a Russian version.
There's a Russian version. There we go. I bet Russian Shockwave sounds pretty scary too. I bet that works. I don't know if Italian or French or something like that, a Latin language.
What about
Shockwave would
Japanese?
sound so scary. Japanese, yeah.
But you know what? I couldn't understand what I did on Call of Duty. It's Los Angeles. There's 15 million people. They couldn't find somebody who spoke German.
It's crazy. Yeah.
I was happy to do it, but it was just weird.
Yeah.
But
That's crazy. Awesome. Do we have any questions from the audience? I just want to make sure I'm not taking up too much time. We've got some hands. Okay. Yeah, okay. We've got a very keen hand right here at the front. Justin, if we can get a mic.
Hi David, how are you doing?
good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. So in 2007, I'm not sure if a lot of people know this, I haven't seen it mentioned, obviously I haven't heard anyone mention it anywhere, but you were the voice of Brawl in Transformers the game. What was it like working on that, sort of like the start of the Bayverse franchise?
I'll tell you a story. I was originally supposed to play Megatron in that. And I contacted Frank and asked him if he was okay with it. And he said he was. But at the end of the day, it didn't work out because of contractual things, and I ended up playing Brawl. And it was fun. It wasn't the part that we thought we were going to. I think they ended up getting Frank to do it after all.
They did.
Did they? Good. Yeah. I'm glad. It worked out as it should have. You know they do sometimes. They sometimes want to play financial games with the leads, and they'll try like get somebody else, or just you're not really ever going to be cast in it, but they do that to try to, as a contractual thing.
Yeah.
And Frank should always be playing that part.
Woo!
Yeah.
And Peter should always be playing Optimus Prime until he's no longer able to. Hopefully that'll be 20 years from now.
Yeah.
Well, if anyone ever wondered, they're all very nice people. The two of them are friends.
Yeah.
And they're funny together. They go, well, it's like they reminisce about things that happened 50 years ago, and they just start bantering. It would happen in Transformers Prime sessions. And we just let them go. They wouldn't record for a while, they just let them play.
I know when we had the other convention that used to be held here, we had Steve Bloom, and he told us some similar stories from the recording room of Transformers Prime.
Steve was right beside me when we recorded.
Oh yeah?
Which worked well since he was Starscream, and I was the man that hated him, apparently.
Yeah.
The robot that hated him.
Amazing. Okay, got a question here, my friend.
Hello, I have two questions. Number one, who has been your favourite character to play in your whole career?
Well, earlier answer, but there's just too many to name. It's not just one. Because there's so many great personalities that just, I get to change my personality, to change into a different person, so that's always fun. So I would say there's definitely a lot of them were just jobs that I didn't really think were written that well, but if it's well written, it could be like 20 of them. And I've played about 140 characters now, something like that.
My second question is, who's your ideal character to play, just out of anything?
Batman.
That's fair. Yeah, pick anyone, Justin. Lots of hands.
Hi. I sort of have one question and one request. So my question would be, how would you compare your version or iteration of Shockwave with other previous versions of Shockwave, especially Corey Burton's one?
This is not saying I'm better or worse, but there's no comparison. It's a completely different set of producers. They wanted a theatrical kind of feeling to it. There really is no way to compare it. It just is a different animal. And when I play these characters that existed before, I on purpose do not go back and listen to anything until it's well into the run. Because the new producer wants what they want. And I just want to serve that production. And sometimes the canon's completely different too.
It's true. It's true. Yeah, we were chatting about that actually earlier in the writers' panel about how some characters have changed, or even in the case of Megatron, if you were in that panel earlier, changed allegiance in some of the most recent shows. So yeah, that's a very good answer.
And also, a few years back, MC Room did a short skit of Starscream ordering fast food at a drive-thru. Did you do Shockwave ordering food at a drive-thru?
Whether we've got time for requests, I don't know, David. It's very much
fast. Sweet potato fries are logical.
Thank you very much.
Would you say sweet potato chip soup?
No, yeah, sweet potato. Weirdly, we say sweet potato fries. I've never heard sweet potato chips, but then we would say chips. We have chips and fries on the same menu.
Okay.
I mean different.
TGI Fridays have sweet potato fries.
Yeah, it's normally fries. And then they get chunky chips, which will be potato. Anyway, sorry, I digress. Food and drinks is a big topic for me. Sorry, question over here.
Okay, on a previous panel, you discussed your way of getting into a character by analyzing whether they love themselves or not. Now the mind-boggling question here is, does Shockwave love himself or not?
He doesn't know what love is. So in that case, it's a different approach. When you play a character that cold, you're, at least for me, I'm thinking about, okay, say my goal is, okay, this glass is in between me and my goal. As Shockwave, he's just going to go like that and knock it out of the way. He doesn't have any opinion or feeling about it. He just wants to get to the bottle.
Yeah, good answer. What about depth charge?
Depth charge just wants Protoform X. That's all he wanted the whole series. He just wanted to get revenge.
Yeah.
And he would help. He would be like a little bit of a hero, a little bit of a good guy for 5 minutes, and then, oh, there's a possibility of getting it by.
Nice. Okay, got a question there?
If there was a sequel to Rise of the Beasts and director said, look, we're thinking about bringing in depth charge, what would your be response to it? And what kind of character would you expect depth charge to be in the Beaverse?
It would be his father, as I said. You know, if they wanted to cast me, they'd be thinking of somebody older. But who knows what they'll make up? It's really hard to say. That would be, if I even answered that question, if I knew enough about Transformers to answer that, it'd probably take an hour to explain the whole canon.
Yeah, hi. Nice to have you here. You've done a lot of anime, and I just found out you're playing Kaido in One Piece, Luffy's most powerful enemy who've beaten a lot before. So, how did that feel, being selected to be in One Piece, one of the most popular franchises out there?
Well, just know that I was very, very fortunate. I had not auditioned for an anime in 26 years, and I auditioned for Kaido when I got it. So I've been doing that for the last year and a half. It's awesome. I didn't realize how awesome it was. And if anyone knows One Piece, and they're watching the English version, they'll know.
My question is there a character that you found more difficult than others? And if so, in what way were they more difficult?
Characters are difficult in different ways. For me, I may have a very strong voice, but it doesn't last forever. When I'm screaming like I did last night, even that little bit, that's not easy to do. When we did, I'll just digress for a second and get back to your question, characters that were difficult. When I played Blitzwing, the line, "Did you think you could hide," that you heard last night, that's the first time I've said those words since the studio, because that wasn't as intense as the movie was last night. If I did it like that, we did an hour, and then just the one line, and that was the whole session. Because I couldn't talk after that. So the difficult ones for me, there's technical difficulty. For me, it's screaming. Even Kaido in One Piece will sometimes, if there's a lot of screaming, it'll be just an hour, hour and a half session, then we'll pick it up a few days later so I can rest. Difficult for me is like the really crazy, wacky, I don't know if you know about this, but they call it squash and stretch animation, where like Ben 10. Ben 10 was one of the hardest jobs I ever had in my life, strangely enough.
Really?
Because it was just so outside of my wheelhouse. I was happy to do it. Well, it was higher. It was I was playing a 10-year-old boy with a slightly deeper voice, and it was crazy, wacky, like, it was just nuts. And my normal performance is more sedate or angry. I played a lot of villains or bad guys, or soldiers, or intense kind of guys, and to do something that's in that, I love comedic stuff. Like Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy is pretty comedic. But I was taking that part so seriously, I didn't realize until the end of the first season it was a comedy. It's funny. Yep.
That's very on-brand for Drax, though.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fantastic.
So yeah, there's lots of different things that are difficult. But you know what? You push through it, you find a way to do it, and you just keep going, and you learn from it.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry that we made you do the line again last night, and you did it.
Well, I wanted to do it because I could hear that it sounded close enough to the way it did.
Oh yeah, no,
It was recognizable.
Very much so. Okay, wherever the mics go, over there.
Hi. You mentioned how you kind of singled out Starscream as the character to ever bring out any kind of emotional response in Shockwave, and the fact that you were recording next to Steve Blum. I'd love to know if there was a sort of any kind of unique collaborative process that came into that, or just what it was like working on that particular relationship dynamic together?
Well, it helped that we really like each other as people, and we could do anything. It was playtime in there. With all those people in there, we were just having a good time. It was one of the best experiences of my life doing that show. And you get to a zone, and you make it fly. And we just did that to look at each other, we just could hear it, and having him beside me was really important. That helped a lot.
Awesome.
Hello, David.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
I got a question for you. Is there any either fiction or like genre, like any other fiction books outside of like Transformers that you would like to take part in? Or
You know, it's weird, it's very obscure. There's this short story by Stephen King called The Langoliers. If anyone knows what that is. But they did a TV movie of it. It would be interesting. I think that would be a really interesting cartoon series to me. So that would be fun.
Yeah.
Nice. Just one comes to mind. Oh, you know what else? One thing. There's a show, okay, they had different titles in Europe and in North America. I think it was called either Europa or Europa. It was a Lars von Trier film from 1991. And it's about what happened, I mean, just the first few days, the first few weeks after the Nazi regime fell in Germany in the Second World War, what it was like for Germans at that time, and those that were loyal and those that weren't, and just how they had to sort of change their attitude, or maybe they resisted. It was a really interesting movie. That would be a really cool project.
Nice.
If they ever revive that.
I haven't heard of that. That sounds very interesting. Okay, question here.
Thank you for joining us. It's been a great panel so far.
Thank you.
I'm just wondering, has anybody behind the scenes, or either yourself ever speculated on how Shockwave became the way he is? In the comics, he was a fairly nice guy who ended up getting lobotomized, and that's why he ended up the way he is. So have you ever had any thoughts about why the cartoon version is the way he is?
Well, especially because he lacked emotion. I think any of that would have been wiped away, and he wouldn't know. I just kind of came upon it as, this is what's in front of me, like dinner, you know? There's what's in front of me, do I like what I see in front of me? So when you're having dinner, you don't think about the one you had 2 weeks ago. You think it's sitting there on your plate. That's how I kind of saw it.
Well, sort of two questions. First one is, I know that voice actors sometimes get asked to do more than one voice. How many, what's the most amount of voices you have to do in one production? And also, how do you look after your voice? Obviously, it's how you earn things. So is there some sort of self-care of your voice involved?
Self-care is vocal rest, usually, not talking. Texting is my friend. On days, after I've been screaming, especially. I was focusing on that very last bit. Tell me again quickly what you said before that.
I know the voice actors sometimes have to do one voice in production. What's the most amount of voices
Oh yeah,
in
right.
production?
Most of them went in production. It was called EverQuest. It was a video game, and I played 23 roles. Pretty unusual for me. And there was another one. I can't remember. Guild Wars 2, I can't remember what it was, but there was another one where I probably did about 20 as well.
Wow. Okay, I don't feel so bad about the 3 voices we asked you to do last night then.
So you're actually probably talking to yourself and literally talking to yourself in some of those?
Never.
All right.
None of those.
Very question.
Hi David, thanks for the panel so far.
Thank you.
After so many years in the industry and working with so many amazing actors, who would be on your Mount Rushmore of voice actors? Who have you learned the most from and taken such great advice from?
Frank, for sure.
Yeah.
Frank Walters. Here's the thing about Frank. I mean, many of you have seen him or met him, and he's just a humble, nice guy, despite how accomplished he is. Some people, even if I met them briefly, like at the premiere for the movie, Ron Perlman was really nice to me. I like working with people that are nice, and in terms of their talent, many talented people I've worked with. And here's an obscure thing. I worked with Marion Ross. Marion Ross was on a show called Happy Days, which was an old, for my age, people know what it is. It was 50 years ago. But this is somebody I watched when I was a little boy, and there I was in Hollywood standing next to her doing the show. And I thought that was cool.
Awesome. Okay, got a question anywhere else? Yeah?
Hey David, what's up?
Hey.
First off, just thanks for the childhood memories of depth charge for me. You did such a good job with that. Also, if you could, what out of all the quotes that people have asked you to do over the years, what's the most common?
Of depth charge, yeah?
Just anyone.
Of anyone. Well, they all have their catchphrases, and I just, you know, as a voice actor, you don't have to memorize what the text is, and I have a horrible memory anyway. So I'd have to, quite often I have to like write it down, or there's one thing, you know, like Drax was, you know, just said, I am Drax the Destroyer. And Shockwave was always be like, you know, David, you are logical. And the joke comes from like holding the pause. I can't remember if they told me to do that or if I made that up, but the pause was key in that one. Yeah, they all have the little phrases, but I don't remember. I remember more one-piece quotes than anything. It's just such a crazy, chaotic show. They're more memorable to me.
Yeah. Nice.
Hi David, question for you. If you were to do any other Transformer character, obscure or not, what would be your top 3?
I wouldn't mind taking a crack at Starscream, even though it's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How would you do Starscream?
Starscream! I am Starscream! He would sound weird in my voice.
Also, do you know if
Fun.
I mean, we've had very high-pitched Starscream, we've had slightly less high-pitched Starscream.
Daniel Ross played him, and
Yeah.
he's amazing at that, I think, too. But yes, Steve, to hear that right next to your ear is amazing.
That's
That's the main one I can think of for Transformers.
Yeah. Nice. Got any more questions? Just anyone put your hand nice and high just so we can see you. There we go, got one at the front.
Hi, this is Steve Vogel. Really cool. My question is, do you think Shockwave would ever find love?
What a question.
I think they would be, at one point, they would be illogical and he would just kill them.
Yeah.
So I don't think that could attract a mate. Not a very, very attractive trait in someone.
Yeah. Not even by mutual, like, benefit?
Well,
They're a partner rather than...
now we're going back to the Friday panel. That isn't love, that is it?
Yeah, that's true.
Not even Soundwave?
Not even Soundwave.
Soundwave, I have a funny relationship with Soundwave, you know.
Yeah.
Because Shockwave and Soundwave sound so similar, I have people bring me Soundwave toys to sign. In their mind, they've forgotten that I didn't play Soundwave. And it's sort of so cool and retro that he had a cassette.
Yeah, that's cool. I bet you could do a pretty good Soundwave.
I'd have to hear a recording of it, but maybe try.
Yeah. No, very good question. Thank you. Got any more? We only got about just under 5 minutes, so last couple of questions if you can think of them, guys.
Hello. First of all, I want to say I love your work, especially as Shockwave. And I think I already know the answer to this, but I would never forgive myself I didn't at least ask. Could we hear what Rhinox would have sounded like?
I actually have signed a non-disclosure agreement that I can't do that.
You can't do
I wish I
that.
could. I would get in a lot of trouble. But we'll see. Hopefully he'll come back in the sequel and he'll talk then. Hopefully that'll be me. We'll see.
Can you describe the...
I can't even go down the road.
Describe that,
I wish I could.
We had to ask. That's understandable. Thank
I was asked that probably 10 times today.
Oh.
And I hate to disappoint you guys.
Yeah.
At a certain point, I can't afford the $2 or $3 million that they would find me.
No, that's very fair. We want you to come back if you're introduced, so that's very fair. Okay, we got another question there.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier about resting your voice for after voice acting now, but what techniques did you have to sort of keep your voice in the way it is now, sort of keeping that sort of rich, deep voice, and what do you do to prepare before doing voices?
Well, just a little bit of a stretch. I don't do much. Just a little bit of a stretch. I make sure that I'm well hydrated, and during the session, if it's very stressful, I have ginger tea with honey. It's my particular, everybody has their thing, you
toddy.
Oh, that's nice too.
Yeah. And they might not let you drink that at work. It's basically.
I might not be able to articulate very well after that, though.
Yeah. Basically a hot toddy, but with alcohol in as well. Nice. Okay, we've got a question over there at the corner.
Hello, David. I just wanted to check and see if any of the different voices or characters you've done over the years, do you collect any of the merch, or do you have any of the figures? Is there any mementos you get from the different projects?
I have the toy, at least one toy of every character that's had a toy in my entire career.
Nice.
I have it on shelves at home.
That's awesome.
For the movies, I like the studio series ones. And I have the original Depth Charge signed by the cast, including Sue Blue, that I got at the time when I was shown. I still have it.
That's awesome.
It's funny, I did the Star Wars Solo movie, and at the session, which was doing background voices mostly, I got a Solo cup. Do you have that here? That brand? Well, in the States they have it's like something you get in the pub if it was just disposable, plastic cup, a little red cup. And because it said Solo, it was a Solo cup, which is kind of famous in the States, and I had everybody in the cast sign that. I like puns too.
Okay, probably got time for one last question. Anyone? God, it's one last one. I'm sorry for that. One last question. They'll pick, just any pick. You have the power.
Hi, if you voiced a Transformer in the future and you got to choose the alt mode, would it transform you into? What would you pick?
A 1950s convertible.
Nice. I won't ask you for a specific model, but yeah, nice.
An Oldsmobile.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Unfortunately, everyone, that is up. Time is up with David Sobolov. Can we please give him a last big round of applause?
Thank you, everyone. It was a great weekend. You guys have been wonderful to me. Thank you so much.